Hey, Chris Parry here from Equity Guru. Today's 3-minute hit is a weed company. Now, I know what you're thinking. Weed companies suck. Nobody's investing in weed companies. I hear you. Canopy Growth Corp, set it on fire, send it down the river. There's nothing there. It's going to zero eventually. All your other big boys, the Tourays, there's no value in investing in any of them. They're all down 95, 98%, 99.5%. To me, you don't make any money investing in cannabis as a large company. However, investing in cannabis as a small company, that's a different story. Now, what if I told you that there's a company out there valued at about $3 million market cap, right? No one's taken all the profit off the top of this thing yet. It's been out there as a public company for a little bit, just a little bit, and it's had its ups and downs during that time. But here's the thing. It doesn't grow anything. It doesn't own dispensaries. Those two parts of the cannabis industry are the least profitable parts of the cannabis industry. Dispensaries, there's way too many of them. They're all getting their products from the government. It's like being a restaurant in BC. You're buying all your liquor, not at wholesale prices, but at retail prices from the government. And then you've got to mark it up to make something. And then you're getting taxed on that. So the government's getting you everywhere. Same with the cannabis business. If you're in a dispensary, you're buying it from the government, you're getting what the government's presenting you. There are all sorts of really ingenious products out there on the black market, and you can't have them. So you've got this industry that you can't market, where nobody's making money on the growth end, nobody's making money on the retail end. So where can you make money? Glad you asked. You can make money buying that commodified weed from any number of licensed companies that are struggling to get by and will sell you their product for pennies on the dollar. You can brand that weed and get it out to the dispensaries where no one's making any margin because they're all fighting for every dollar. And you can be in that place in the middle where you actually make decent profit without a heavy investment, without having to kill yourself with overhead, without having to buy stacks of product that might go bad while it's still sitting in your hands. You get it when you need it, you sell it straight away. That's a good business model, even in the crappy Canadian weed space. And there's only a few companies that are doing it that way. One of those companies is BC Bud Corporation. Now, if you've been watching me for a while, you've heard me talk about this company before. Two things that I love about this company. One is the branding is exactly where you want it to be. You can't build a brand in Canadian weed. It doesn't exist. You get logos this big on the packaging. You can't put posters up everywhere. You can't go doing a marketing campaign to the kids. You're just putting your products on the shelf and you hope that someone looks at the LED screen and says, I'll have that thing out of the 75 things I can see. Hard to build a brand, right? The only way to build a brand in those dispensaries is to have a really good product that people go, oh, well, this is good, right? And that doesn't happen very often. In order for that to happen, you have to have a quality brand that people will cotton onto, recognize, and repeat. Or, this is big or here, all your branding needs to be something that people grew up with. And what kind of cannabis branding existed before the pubcos came around? BC Bud. That's it. Ditchweed and BC Bud. Those are the two brands. Closet Weed or BC Bud. Even down in California, they were smoking BC Bud. Everybody knows, historically, BC Bud was the good stuff. So here's this company comes along and says, our brand is the BC Bud Corp. If you see that on a screen, if you see it on a shelf, if you see it on a logo, on a packet, and amongst other logos, what are you going to look at? Are you going to look at spinach? Are you going to look at Auntie Mabel's hippie weed? Are you going to look at all the various names and colors and ridiculousness that has been thrown at the market in an attempt to find a brand that will make people go, oh, I remember that? None of it sits with anybody except BC Bud. BC Bud is the one brand that people recognize, remember, and if they see it next to any other brand on the market, will say, give me that BC Bud, let me have a try of that. because it's what you grew up with. And frankly, the entire cannabis sector, from a consumer point of view, it's all guys that used to smoke weed. It's all guys that have smoked weed growing up. Nobody's starting to smoke weed because it's legal now. They're just not. The people that are enthusiasts are just in there looking for what's good. The people that are the other 98% out there, the guys, the first timers look at those screens and they don't know what they're looking at. But if they see BC Bud, they know what they're looking at. So first timers, BC Bud's a home run. Long-term users, BC Bud's a home run. Tourists, BC Bud is a home run. BC Bud should be selling into the California market, into the Colorado market, because that's where that brand would really kick off. And at some point, that'll be something they can do. Right now, however, nationally, they're in Manitoba, they're in Saskatchewan, they're in BC, Alberta, Ontario. This is a national brand. This is a brand of a brand of brands. And I'll get to what that means. Rather than going out there and paying some promotion company to put some logo together and say, well, we're going to call it Yellow Belly Skank Factory, they've just gone out there and used the simplest approach. We start our own brand in something that people know, and then we go out and we find the guys that are doing the high quality products that need a little help to go from the farm to the table, and we will give them that step up to get in front of consumers. No risk. They're not going out there and buying a truckload of this product and a truckload of that product. They're taking the truckload and they're moving it forward to the dispensaries and getting it across the country, and then they're settling up later. And if something doesn't sell, you can guarantee these guys are going to send it straight back to where it came from and say, sorry boss, but we don't owe you anything. Besides all that, BC Bud Corp, if it was a bunch of random guys that just happened to get lucky on the trademark, that'd be one thing, but it isn't. BC Bud Corp consists of 3 guys that have exits, successful exits in the cannabis space in Canada on the Pubco side, right? There's not many of them that have. You can go to the Doja guys, they fleeced Canopy Growth Corp when they sold that thing for $400 million. You can go to the Tokyo Smoke guys who sold a concept to the same group for ridiculous money. You can go and look at Aurora, who bought all sorts of things because it jumped their market cap whenever they did, none of which came to pass. And then you can look at these guys, Braden Sutton, who was involved in Aurora, who was involved in 7 Acres / Supreme, which got bought up by Canopy Growth Corp. You can look at Mark Lustig, who started Canna Royalty, which became Origin House, which became $1 billion exit. You get all these guys that have come through a blazing dumpster fire of an industry. Some of the few that actually have wins. Some of the few that separated themselves from the pack by doing things the right way. These companies that these guys worked with, they did it the right way. They got good exits. They did not kill their reputation, and they still haven't. And they've come together and said, all right, well, so let's build a house of brands. Not dissimilar to what Canna Royalty / Origin House was. Let's go out there and use our muscle and get these little guys on the farm side that are struggling, that are fighting against each other. Everything's a race to zero. And let's give them the opportunity to sell their product to us and process it into a brand that people will recognize that is on shelves. They're in the perfect position. They are in the low risk, decent margin, all the power in the deal, right? As long as you can get on shelves, and they can. They just doubled their number of products on BC shelves this past week. As long as they can do that, they will be the bullies at the table. Mark Lustig, if he decides tomorrow, you know what, it'd be healthy for BC Bud to have an extra $1 million in the bank. He's got the $1 million that he can just say, now I have more stock. And he's got friends and partners and associates who also have money, who he can bring in and say, hey, I would like some more people in this deal. Who's with me? And people will slap down their money. There's a private placement open right now. What's the first thing that I did? I contacted Braden Sutton and said, hey, bud, you got any space in that private place? I don't even know what the price is for this raise. All I know is the crew and the form guide of that crew, they don't miss. These guys have been there from the beginning. They've never fucked a guy over, and they're still in there swinging while everyone else is a crumpled body in the corner of the room. A $3 million market cap for that, that's a gimme. That's a gimme. Don't even look at what the share price is right now. You can look at the stock chart for the past couple of months and say, oh, what happened there? It went from 8 cents to 17 cents, back to 8 cents, back up to 10 cents. Hey, man, someone got in at a $3 million market cap. Some guy sneezes and needs a bit of money to buy Kleenex. The stock price goes down, right? It's a $3 million market cap. I own more stock in this company than realistically I should, just because it's so damn cheap, right? So as this thing starts to build, that small share count that you see when you look at this thing, and it is a small share count, means any movement up or down is going to be a big one. Now, if I look at the fundamentals of this company today, it's a $5 million market cap. It was a $3.5 million market cap 2 days ago when we last wrote about it. So we've gone from 8 cents to 9.5 cents. Last sale here was 10 cents today. It was up today 17% on low trading, right? This is what I'm talking about. You've got the best jockeys in the game on a brand new horse that is offering great odds at a $5 million market cap. And they're in the part of the industry where people aren't bleeding and watching their entrails drag beneath them, right? They're actually in a place where there's a little bit of money to be made. They don't need to cover much to cover their expenses. In fact, the last financials there, I think it was about $150,000 loss. For a weed company on a quarter, that's insane. All these guys got to do is turn a few bolts, move a few knobs in one direction, hit a few buttons, and that $150,000 loss goes to a break even. Now, how many cannabis companies do you know that are break even right now? What is it? That? Is it that? Maybe there's a couple out there, but they're hiding, man, because everybody else is bleeding from the eyes. These guys are not at risk. They got a little loss. They go out and raise $500,000. It's not rocket science. They've got the wealthy guys right there that they can raise the money from to do when they need to. The risk is that all these guys who have a stellar reputation, the few who have a stellar reputation in the cannabis business, decide that now is the time to fuck everybody over and trash those reputations. Well, they haven't done that to this point. These guys have a reputation, which is a really rare thing in the cannabis business. Point me to somebody who doesn't have bruises, who's been in that business for more than 6 months. I dare you to, because I don't think you can. So, Braden Sutton, Josh Taylor, Mark Lustig, these guys, they're all in there swinging hard. They're adding SKUs. They're getting their product into stores. They're getting shelf space, and they have the brand that people look at and say, that's something that I'm not scared of. It's interesting. In a world of write-downs, in a world where they're competitors, where the big boys at the table that have the billion-dollar market caps write off $1 billion per quarter in assets that just aren't worth anything. They're underwater. In that world, man, if I tell you what, if Cannabis Growth Corp came up with a quarter where they only lost $140,000, the stock price would double that day. And here's BCBC, ticker symbol BCBC, doing their thing quietly on the sidelines, growing responsibly with a reputation that is unmatched. Runs on the board, nice little earner, just quietly building to a place where people get. Now, to me, take all that money out of Canopy, take all that money out of Tilray. All those guys, they won't feel it. They go up and down not on your money, but on the institutional money that's being written off. Whereas BC Bud, you put a couple of grand of lazy money that you've got lying behind the couch, you're the bully at the table, man. You're moving that stock. You're making that stock go up. To me, it's an easy thing, and I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be actively looking to add to your holding, let alone having a holding, but adding to your holding. The financing that they've got out right now, it's only $500,000. Why is it only $500,000? Because the share price is cheap, right? They're just getting a little bit of money for walking around with. They don't need to go out there and raise $5 million, because they'll do that when the stock is at a much higher valuation. Right now, it's good stuff. The product is good. You can go to the stores, you can try it yourself. You can go to their website, you can see what they're doing. They're doing things like coffee beans with cannabis. Damn, sign me up, right? Like, come on now. Anyway, this was supposed to be a 3-minute hit, and I'm probably at 13 minutes now so far. 15. I'm only 5 minutes beyond the 3-minute hit. But shit, I got a lot to talk about with these guys. I don't do many cannabis companies, man. I was the god of cannabis companies at one point, back in the early days, in 2015, when they were first being announced. I had the cannabis industry on a string. I knew all the players. I knew who was doing what, who was real, who wasn't. And when I wrote about a company, the share price would rise significantly. If I slammed a company, it would drive into the dirt. These motherfuckers were the guys. These were the guys you looked out for, because they had win after win after win. They knew where all the bodies were buried, and they steered clear of all of them. As a guy who swore away from cannabis companies 4 days before the big collapse in 2019, to be actually actively talking about one and saying, not only do I like it, but I'm in, that's a big deal. So, BC Bud Corp. And if you want to learn more, go to their website, go to our website, EQUITY.GURU, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a damn thing.